Today I turned 55. It wasn't a bad day. It wasn't a great day either. It was quiet. There wasn't a big family dinner. There wasn't a room full of people. There wasn't a phone that wouldn't stop ringing. In fact, only two people called me all day: my father and my neighbor. Now, I'll be honest with you. As peaceful as my life has become compared to what it used to be, that kind of stung a little. Not because I need a party, and not because I need presents, but because birthdays have a funny way of making you stop and look around at your life. And for a few minutes, I caught myself thinking, is this really what life has become? Then something hit me that completely changed how I looked at this birthday. The person that I missed the most doesn't exist anymore. And I'm not talking about someone else, I'm talking about me. I started thinking about the man I used to be. Not the younger version, not the stronger version, not the version with more money. Talking about the version that still believed the people around him genuinely cared. The man who thought that if he loved hard enough, worked hard enough, gave enough, sacrificed enough, everything would somehow work itself out. But that man doesn't exist anymore. Some people will hear that and think it's sad. I don't. Because that man also accepted things he should have never accepted. He ignored things that he should have paid attention to. He kept giving people another chance, and another, and another. Because he believed that people would eventually become who they kept promising they were going to be. But they didn't. When I left my marriage 4 years ago, I didn't just leave a house, I didn't just leave all my belongings. I left pieces of myself scattered everywhere. I'd spent so many years trying to keep everything together that I forgot who I was, without carrying everyone else's problems. When I walked away, I thought I was rebuilding my life. What I didn't realize was I was also trying to find myself. Those aren't the same thing. You can rebuild your finances, you can rebuild your home, you can rebuild your health, you can even rebuild your career. But rebuilding yourself, that's a different journey. Because you eventually realize the old version of you isn't waiting around the corner. He's gone. Today, sitting here on my 55th birthday, I realized something else. Years ago, my birthday probably would have been surrounded by more people. There would have been a lot more noise, more activity, more chaos. And looking back, I don't even know how much of it was real. How many people were celebrating me? And how many people simply expected me to keep being the person who carried everyone else's load? That's a hard question to ask yourself. Because sometimes we mistake being needed for being loved. And those two things are not the same. The strange thing is, my life today is quieter than I ever imagined. But it's also more honest than it's ever been. Nobody is yelling. Nobody is manipulating me. Nobody is making me feel guilty because I didn't solve their latest crisis. There's peace, real peace. And after years of chaos, peace almost feels unfamiliar. Sometimes it even feels a little lonely. I think that's the part that people don't talk about. Everybody tells you how wonderful peace is. Nobody tells you that when the chaos disappears, that you can hear your own thoughts again. Sometimes that's beautiful. Sometimes it's painful. There was a moment today when I almost felt sorry for myself. Only 2 phone calls, that's it. Then I thought about something. 4 years ago, if someone had asked me what I wanted most, I would have, I wouldn't have said more birthday wishes. I would have said, I just want peace. That's what I wanted. That's what I prayed for. That's what I've spent the last 4 years fighting to build. And today, I have it. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not completely, but I have more peace today than I ever had back then. So maybe this birthday wasn't empty. Maybe it was simply quiet enough for me to hear the truth. I don't miss, the truth is, I don't miss my old life. I don't miss the chaos, not even a little bit. And I don't miss walking on eggshells. I especially don't miss constantly trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The only thing that I truly miss is the man who believed everyone deserved another chance. Another chance. Because that man had a good heart. He just gave it to too many people who didn't deserve it. That version of me had to disappear so this version could survive. So today, at 55 years old, I didn't celebrate with a crowd. I celebrated with something I didn't even know existed 4 years ago. Perspective. Because birthdays aren't really about counting how many years you've lived. They're about looking at who you've become. And today I realized the person that I missed the most doesn't exist anymore. But maybe that's exactly why I'm still here. Because the man I am today finally learned something that the old version never could. Sometimes you don't lose yourself because life happens to you. Sometimes you lose yourself because you spend too many years trying to become everything for everyone else. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest gift that I received on my 55th birthday was finally understanding that the man I used to be didn't disappear. He simply became someone wiser, someone quieter, and someone harder to fool. And for the first time in a very long time, someone who finally found peace, even when the day was quiet. Y'all, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.